My name is Tiana Cain. I teach third grade at Audrey Garrett Elementary School, and I primarily teach reading and social studies. Growing up, I was a gymnast, competitive gymnast, and after I quit in about high school time, I started coaching. And I started coaching kids that were elementary school aged, and I found a passion for it. Just the guiding, the encouraging, getting the kids to try new things and feel confident, that became my passion, and that's when I decided to go for teaching. I love when the light bulbs go off. I love when the kids get it, and I enjoy coming to work every day. I'm a big kid at heart, so I come and I have just as much fun as the kids do. My fondest memories in the classroom often include working together, big projects. We're incorporating theater right now into some of our learning, and I find that to be a lot of fun. Kids that are normally shy seem to come out and be a little bit more confident, try new things. So I would say that I've enjoyed incorporating some art and theater into the classroom. I do enjoy teaching figurative language because it can be funny. Very purposeful, but we can be silly with it. We do plays, use our theater skills to try and teach one another new phrases. And we also incorporate some visual arts into this unit, so kids can see how idioms can sound funny if you take them literally, and then find actual meaning. So it's a great springboard to incorporate or integrate the arts. I want them to have fun at school and feel that they can try new things and feel safe. So I cut up with the kids. You know, I have to have fun too. And fun is contagious. I think if I'm having fun, they will have fun. You know, we don't compare ourselves with others, but we do compare ourselves to ourselves. So my children are they're very much in charge of setting a goal and attaining that goal, and following through on the steps that it would take to reach that goal. When my kids leave my classroom, I want them to think of me as family. I love seeing them when they're grown and they're in high school and they remember me fondly. I want them to aim high. I came from humble beginnings. Education has taken me far. I wasn't sure that I would ever be able to go to college because of family finances when I was a kid. And I've come out with a master's degree with a job that I love to go to every day. So I feel like I won the lottery. And I hope my children and my students can see that if they set their goals high and they work hard, that they can also find their passion and win their personal lottery.
So my name's Justine Chief. I teach 5th grade at B. Everett, Georgia. So originally I wanted to be a teacher, and then I got to 4th grade and I hated my teacher, and so I decided I'm not doing that. And then I got to my senior year of high school and decided that I would intern and just try it again, and thought maybe since I had a bad experience that I could be a teacher and have a good impact on kids. And so I went back and did my internship, and I loved it, and I realized that I could have kids like school, and so that's why I chose to go back into the classroom. I love to teach for a lot of different reasons. It's never the same each day. Every relationship is different, and that's probably my favorite thing, is just having different relationships and really getting to know the kids and letting their personalities come out, and just knowing that I have an impact on what they do. I hope that one thing, like I've already mentioned, that they feel like they can do more, that they're not in a box. I don't want them to feel like they're in a box. I want them to feel like they can do whatever they want as long as they put work into it. So I guess my goal is that they find their voice. And again, going back to communication, I feel like it's going to be really important. Like, I want them to have their voice, but people aren't going to listen to them if they can't communicate it. So with morning meeting, it's volunteer. So I haven't led morning meeting in probably 2 months because they all want to lead, which is awesome, and then they can put their own spin on it. I hope when they leave me that they are prepared. I think the biggest thing that I try and hit again is perseverance, because they're going to be in a ton of new situations. They're going to have a lot more freedom. So we just talk about, like, well, when you're stuck, what are your strategies? What strategies do you have? So I hope that they bring that toolbox with them so that when they do get in that situation, they can persevere, because they're going to have more freedom and they're going to have to make choices on their own, whereas here it's more structured because of where they are. So I try and give them more freedom, again, by like letting them have voice in the morning meeting and taking different roles. So hopefully that's practice for them when they do get into that situation. Oh, my fondest classroom memory. Well, this is probably one of my favorite memories. We had pajama day, and it just happened to be our makeup picture day. So we had our class pictures, and one of my kids comes in, and he has these pajamas on, and he turns around, he's like, "Miss Chief, look!" And he's like putting his bottom in the air, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" And it says like bare cheeks. So we had to have a conversation about how, like, you can't just like put your bottom in people's face. And so then when we went to go take our group picture, they were like, "All right, do a silly picture." So he turned around and showed his bare cheeks to the camera.
My name is Jessica Fitzgerald. I am the AIG specialist at Woodlawn Middle School, and I work with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders teaching ELA and mathematics. Growing up, I was lucky enough to live in a house that valued learning. They did not have a college education, but they knew the importance of knowing things in the world. And I discovered as I went through my youth that I loved sharing that with other people. So I started teaching for real in 7th grade, and my teachers asked me to teach something on a topic I was well versed in. And then I tutored in high school for my friends, tutored math for them, and I found that I loved it. I didn't always go into teaching. I was a biology major, but as I went forward, I knew that that's what I was supposed to be doing. The best times in the classroom are moments when kids will ask a question and it allows us to venture deeper or to take side views of things that we're studying, and it allows me to give them things that they wouldn't normally have. I love getting to work with my kids year after year. That's one of the blessings of my position, is that I can incorporate things that we studied previously and just enjoy them. I know them by the time they leave 8th grade. Those are my kids, and I love bringing back things that we've already talked about. In mathematics, I love branching out and bringing in, where is math in the world? Is it in art? Is it in science? Even, is math related to history? How do we bring those items into the classroom? I hope to be able to allow my kids to know when they head up the hill to Eastern next year that they can do whatever they want, and they don't have to do what is expected of them. When you work in the position I am, I see a lot of bright kids, and they have a lot of pressures on them. And I want them to know that they are individuals, and they can pursue whatever interests they have, and they can pursue that at the highest level that they want to, and that I'm going to be there if they need me. I want to share that students are individuals and not numbers, and there is no cookie cutter student. And so they need to have people available to them to help them get where they need to be. And that might be somebody to push them along. It might be somebody to say, breathe, it's okay. We need to be the advocates for them. We need to make sure that we have programs available for students at all levels. We need to make sure that schedules don't get in the way of what's best for the kids. We need to make sure that they are loved.
I'm Veronica Alan. I'm the orchestra director at Williams High School, and I teach grades 9 through 12 of mixed orchestra classes, and I've been doing that for 8 years. I think, like a lot of teachers, that having good teachers in my own life kind of led me into the education profession. So I had some really influential and dynamic music teachers in high school that inspired me to kind of explore and pursue that as a career. And I think in high school especially, teachers stay in the profession because we're so passionate about our content. So I love teaching music. I think there's so much to learn from orchestra, not only musically, but life lessons and group dynamics and collaboration, that I feel really passionate about what I teach and how important it is. I love teaching because for me, it's so dynamic. I'm always walking around and interacting with people and trying to solve problems in the moment. I think one thing that was really meaningful for me, and hopefully also the students, was last year we were able to commission a piece, which means we paid a composer to write a piece of music for the Williams High School Orchestra. And he came in, he lives in Winston-Salem, his name is Dan Locklear, and he came in and rehearsed with our students and wrote a piece called Burlington Muses about our community. And I think that's one of my goals for this program, is that the greater Burlington community knows we exist. I try to emphasize a lot the fact that orchestra is not always about music. I mean, obviously, the majority of it is about music, and I hope that my students will leave with the ability to play in the future if they want to, in community orchestras, in college groups, or whatever context they may find themselves in. But I think probably one of the most impactful things about doing any ensemble work is you have to work together. So it's unique to this content or any music or performing arts in that all of my students have to buy in and have to do the same thing. So we spend a lot of time talking about group dynamics and figuring out, you know, in my lesson we were talking about who has the melody and who's important and how can you respond to people around you. And I think that all of those lessons are so applicable in every context because it's just part of being human, is figuring out how to be around people and how to work toward a common goal. So I really hope that my students, if they never play their instruments again, remember some of those lessons that they can take into whatever they may do in the future. We play in a retirement home every Christmas time and do things like that. We'll play in theme parks occasionally. I have a chamber group that's more advanced, and so we've performed at like the mayor's holiday party and at Smitty's downtown, and word's kind of getting out that my students like to perform. And so it's again trying to establish that connection in Burlington, that we're all part of the same community and we can benefit each other.
I'm Rebecca Porter. I teach at Northern Elementary and I teach first grade. My first grade teacher is what led me to teaching. When I was in first grade, for some reason, I had social anxiety and I was really scared to be away from my mom, and she just made a connection with me and made me feel welcome and made me feel comfortable, and that to the point where I was like, okay, like I can do this, I can go to school. The more I grew up, the more I realized that people need someone, and I wanted to be that for my kids. And funny story, I actually reached out to my first grade teacher when I was in college. I found her on Facebook and I was like, not to be creepy, but hey, I was in your first grade class. I just wanted to let you know that I'm pursuing teaching because of you. We just have this connection, and I wanted that connection with these little kids because, you know, we kind of all need a connection with someone. One of my years of teaching, I had a little girl, and she was rambunctious, to say the least. Really loved her, but she was just very all over the place and very colorful. Just one of those girls. So we really had to work on her calming down, and because she had a hard time like calming down, and I just, you know, I really sat with her and I figured out what she needed help with and kind of like how to help her. So she loved Elsa, and I was like, okay, I was like, in Elsa, like what does she do when she gets frustrated? And she was like, well, she lets it go. And I was like, okay. I was like, so when you get frustrated, you just need to throw your hands up and just like start singing Let It Go. So every time she got frustrated, we would stop and we would do that. And I would like see her when I'd like pick her up from specials or pick her up from somewhere. She would get frustrated, and I would see her, she would just take like a breath and she'd be like, let it go, let it go. And I was like, yes, you can do it. So I feel like that was my fondest memory. So I think my favorite lessons is math, anything hands-on, anything I can create a song to or try to create a song to is what I really like to do. Today we did shapes, and the song that we sang was just very basic, but it goes over all of the shapes, and it's kind of like chanty, so like they'll be like in the hallway and I can hear them like humming it, and I'm like, what you singing? The impact I hope I have on my students when they leave me is that the love that I put into them, and hoping that I tell them the first day, we have a meeting the first day of school, and I'm like, we are a family. Families get on each other's nerves, families do fight, but at the end of the day, we're family and we stick together.
My name is Natalie Hornaday. I teach at Altamaha Ossipee Elementary, that's a mouthful, AO Elementary, and I teach 2nd grade. What led me to teaching was a conversation with my father, great role models in the classroom when I was a student, and college experience. When I was little, I had some great teachers. I attended Elon Elementary, I attended Western Middle School. I had some teachers who loved on me. I remember my 2nd grade teacher, Mrs. Cates, would let me sit on her lap. As a reward for good behavior, she would let me actually teach. So I taught a reading group in 2nd grade, and I just loved that. I love teaching because, well, for many reasons. One reason, I feel like I've never arrived. I feel like each year, there's room to grow professionally, but more importantly, I love teaching because of the children. I enjoy working with kids. They get my sense of humor. Adults may not think I'm funny, but 7- and 8-year-olds think I'm hilarious. I love giving them a positive experience that I had in school. I try to make teaching or learning as engaging as possible. At times you do have to use a worksheet, and you do have to do that sort of thing, but whenever possible I try to incorporate movement. So we use in Alamance Burlington, we use Foundations, which is our systematic phonics program, and it is wonderful because it systematically teaches phonics. I try to incorporate movement in that, so when we are writing and marking up our words, the children stand, they rotate. I try to incorporate cute little sayings or songs so they remember that particular phonics skill. And one example for the vowel consonant E syllable, we often do the Beyonce, if you like it, put an E on it. One of my fondest memories, and it's a general memory, it's year after year, is our wax museum. In 2nd grade, we study about people who have made a positive difference in this world. And so children select a famous person. They research that person using text, using thing links and videos. After researching, they write a biography about that person. And then they bring a prop from home, and parents are invited to walk around our museum. And as they walk around, they become alive and they become that person. So it turns into an autobiography, and they act out that person and tell their parent all about the person they are. When children leave my classroom at the end of the year, I hope they leave with a love of learning. But I think more importantly, I hope they have a love for school and for their teachers. I try to develop a personal relationship with each child, a positive relationship, so when they leave they feel loved, and when they come back in August they know they're coming back to a safe place, a place that loves them and cares for them and wants them to be the best they can be, and that they can come back and give me a hug and tell me they love me and I love them.
My name is Stephanie McCabe, and I teach at the Burlington School. I teach 1st grade. When I first entered the doors of Burlington Day School, My kindergarten teacher greeted me with the biggest smile and warm hug. She just welcomed me, and at her feet I just fell in love with reading and teaching and learning, and she was my idol. When I grew up, I looked into nursing and marketing and all kinds of things, but like a bungee cord, I just kept coming back to teaching. I just wasn't happy, and teaching is where my passion is. It's where I'm most happy. And when I graduated from college, I began my career with ABSS and ended up coming back to the Burlington School, and which was the most full circle moment you can imagine. My former kindergarten teacher was my mentor, and after 41 years of service, I became the first grade teacher this year, which a position she formerly has held for decades. It was such an honor and such big shoes to fill at that. My fondest classroom memory was when I was working in the public sector, and I had a very memorable student, just a dear, and he very active, and he had a lot of home problems. He came to school not so much for what I could offer him as a teacher, but what I could offer him as a human being and as a mother. And I remember him coming back in the next couple of years and just saying, thanks, Miss King. Thanks, Miss King, you really made an impact on me. My favorite lessons to teach when the first graders come to me and we start really digging into math. It just gets you can just see the sparks in their eyes, and you can see that they're excited, and it gets them problem solving. And I think that is probably what it boils down to, is just that anytime I can have them be independent and to be problem solvers, that's what it fills my heart as a teacher. One of the things in the classroom that I'm most proud of is my work in Daily 5. And in Daily 5, the children, we build stamina throughout the year. The classroom is totally student run, and so they, at any given time, they know where they're supposed to be, what to do in those stations, and then I'm able to conduct a small group. When I start out the year, I keep in the back of my mind the idea of, if you give a man a fish, you can feed him for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, you can feed him for a lifetime. And that's kind of how I think about my kids, is that I want them to be not doers, but I want them to be thinkers. I want them to be independent. I want them to leave Miss Mac being independent, being problem solvers, being able to handle whatever life may throw at them, whatever school may throw at them. And I hope that in the years to come, that they'll think fondly of me and remember those lessons that we taught. And also to remember that it's, as much as education is a top priority, it's about being a good person too. This is a job like no other. I hope that they'll come back and tell me that I serve them well.
My name is Sarah Kozma. I teach at Alamance Community College. I teach nursing. I teach the first years. So I teach foundation, med-surg, and pharmacology. I've been a nurse for 40 years. I love nursing, but about 20 years ago I decided that I also love teaching. So I started teaching outpatient at the hospital, and then they asked me to come over here and guest lecture. And then I love teaching the students and seeing that light bulb go off. So I've been doing this for about the last 15 years. My generation of nurses is getting older, and we need replacements, that need to know what they're doing, and somebody has to teach them how to care for patients, and I want to be that teacher. I love teaching blood gases. So a blood gas is something that you get out of the artery, and it tells you about the pH of the body and how well the respiratory and the metabolic system is doing. Students hate blood gases. They're scarily afraid of them. They don't understand them. And hopefully by the end of the lesson, they get it. And then I give them a worksheet and they have to figure it out. And then they come and see me, and all of a sudden it clicks and they get blood gases and they love them. Part of what I do is I teach in the classroom, but I also take students to the local hospitals 1 day a week. But sometimes we need to practice skills that we can't practice on real patients. So we have high fidelity mannequins that can talk, and they then mean that we can practice and play with them without actually hurting anybody. So today we were doing a blood transfusion on a patient. the patient got into problems, the students had to identify the problem, they had to call the physician, they had to get orders, and then they had to act those orders. So that's mimicking real life for them when they graduate next year with their RN. I have to have clinical expertise of what to expect. I have to know how to operate the mannequin, and I have to give the students a real life situation that would mimic real life. So if the oxygen levels are low and they put oxygen on the patient, the oxygen should improve. If they do something well, the patient should get better. If they miss something, the patient will get worse. And then the students have to figure out what exactly is going on and what direction they should take. So one of my favorite memories is one of my students was at the hospital and a patient needed a new IV. The student and I went together and she started the IV. I was right there in case she got into trouble. She started the IV, walked out of the room very professional. In the hallway was jumping up and down and celebrating. So I was giving her a high five because she got it on her first stick. And the patient heard us and came out of the room and said, "Wait, that was your first IV ever?" And she said, "Yes," and she was expecting him to be upset. So there's a rubber band, a tourniquet you use. So he took the tourniquet out of the trash and initialed it. So she asked me to initial it, so she has it framed in her house. I hope that they leave with a sense of passion and commitment, and I hope that they leave with a love of nursing.